I'm Kyle Carpenter. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of LeGrand. And when it comes to snow plowing, I'm your guy. I grew up here in Eastern Oregon over in Baker City. Went off to Portland for school where I got my degree in civil engineering. I worked as a consultant engineer in Portland for multiple years before coming back to be a bridge designer here locally. Ended up with the city, so I've been with the city for 8 years now, not in my current position. I've been the Public Works Director for a year now. Went back to school. I've also got an MBA from Eastern Oregon University. So I'm a registered engineer, a certified water rights examiner, and just happy to be here. So prior to my current position as the Public Works Director, I served as what we term the Environmental Regulatory Superintendent. So I like to say that means I am the jack of all trades. I worked as the city engineer. I did work with regulatory agencies to make sure our water and sewer systems were up to par. I also covered things like the air quality index and pretty much anything you can throw at me. So following someone who's been in this position and with the city for a very long time has been challenging but rewarding in certain aspects. So there are many things that being from the outside I can come in and offer a new light on, and also coming from the private side, it's been able to take a fresh look. As an enterprise fund, Public Works in the water and sewer division is basically run like a business, except for we don't want profit. We want to be as efficient as possible and not make any money. So there's added challenges there. So by coming in after Norm, he had done a fantastic job of establishing relations with the council, with city departments, and we got to take advantage of those and have a lot of confidence built in the decisions we're making. So with all the changes that we're doing, it's fun to bring all the modernization into a system that has great support, is well constructed. So I kind of like to compare it to buying a house with good bones. All I have to do is pretty it up. With snow plowing, some of the most difficult challenges that we've come upon is making sure that everyone in the general public really understands what goes into making these decisions, seeing the overall analysis and the stuff that's going on behind closed doors. So the city has a policy on snow removal, and I think what a lot of people don't understand is just because our guys are at work doesn't mean that I can throw them at snow plowing and it's not money spent. Everything comes out of line items. So I have so much money in a budget line to clear the snow for the year, to deal with flooding, to build new storm sewers, and for every dollar we put toward unnecessary snow removal is a dollar that I can't use to protect against flooding, is a storm sewer that goes uncleaned, unmaintained, unbuilt. So those are factors that come in. The other piece that I've found that's difficult is the communication and making sure everyone's kind of aware of what's going to happen. From our standpoint on the inside, there's definitely a procedure to how everything works. We know when we're going to make the call to plow. We know how where we're going to start, where we're going to go. And for doing this for 30 years, some of my guys think it's common knowledge that everybody knows this stuff. So getting the process in where you can get that information out to the public, whether it be through social media, through public service announcements, or really those are our best options to getting them out in a quick basis. So those are some of the biggest challenges. As for the actual work itself, it hasn't changed in 30 years. So when you're thinking about snow removal in the city of LeGrand, a lot of people will look around and measure us up to what's going on with the state on the state highway system, the state interstate system. And what you have to realize is there are two different philosophies going on here. The state has adopted a philosophy that when the first snowflake falls, it's time to send out the plows and run laps. The city of LeGrand's policy has been adopted to make sure that the roads are navigable and that you can get to where you're going in a reasonable case. That doesn't mean that you're going to have bare pavement, doesn't mean that you're not going to have to slow down. There's going to have to be certain things that have to be done to make sure that you can still traverse the roads even after we plow, and we're not necessarily going to plow every road. When you're looking at the budgets in which the state or which the city runs under, the city is allotted a certain amount of money. I can certainly send my plows out and run them when the first snowflake falls, just like the state does. I have the equipment, I have the people. But the amount of money that would be required for us to do that in the instances in which we get these storm events would be sporadic and hard to estimate. So where you would end up on the governmental planning side is you would always have to be conservative and have a huge bank of money waiting for that 1 year, just like 2017, 2018, where we have 3 feet of snow and we need to be out there consistently all the time. The way that the City of LeGrand snow removal program is structured is to make sure that on an average year, we're going to be there all the time. And on those heavy years, we have enough money to make it manageable. Another piece that we have to figure in every time we pull those snow plows out is how much is this going to cost against our budget? So as a general idea, we have about $160,000 a year to take care of snow removal, any flooding, and whatever's left over we can use to build new storm sewers throughout the city. Now, when we pull the plows out and we plow the whole city, it'll take 24 hours if everything goes well. There are chances it'll go longer. To put that into perspective, 24 hours of plowing with people and equipment will cost the city around $25,000 against that budget. Now, generally, downtown, we will come through and we'll pick up the snow through downtown that we've moved to the center. That'll be an additional $6,000. Usually takes anywhere between 4 and 8 hours to get that snow removed and placed off-site. And when I say the cost of personnel and equipment, the way that the city runs our motor pool is our equipment is actually rented to ourselves. One of the big problems you run into in government is we'll get a new piece of equipment, we'll use it until it's dead, and then there's no money left to buy the next piece of equipment that needs to come in. The City of LeGrand has set up a system in which we have a motor pool that purchases this equipment and rents it back to each of our departments. So the money stays in-house, but it's earmarked to buy the piece of equipment that will be needed to replace that plow in 5 to 10 years. Without that system in place, what you'll find is with a lot of the governments around here, you'll get an aging equipment, and in the end, you're going to end up renting equipment or not being able to afford something when you need it, and it'll be an emergency. So we're planning ahead to avoid those. So when you're looking at that number of $25,000, that includes all of your personnel costs, which include wages and benefits. That includes your equipment, which is fuel, operation and maintenance, and also that earmarked amount for replacement for the future equipment that we're going to need to replace it when it wears out. One of the most important parts of our snow removal plan is the order in which the snow will be removed. So every snow event, we're going to start with our arterials and our collectors. Those are going to be your main roads that will get you to the interstate, they'll get you to the hospital. There is no residence in the City of LeGrand that is more than 3 blocks from a collector or an arterial. So in the worst case scenario, you should be able to get to one of those within the first day of a storm event, no matter how bad it is. Following those, we'll switch over and we'll start doing the residential roads if necessary. One of the big problems that we have in LeGrand, and most everywhere, is snow doesn't fall equally. Some days in the northwest part of town we'll have 8 inches of snow, and in the east side of town we'll have 2. One of our new ways of handling snow removal is we're going to plow where it needs to be done, and we're not going to waste the time to plow where it doesn't need to be done. The money doesn't need to be spent, we can spend it in better places. From a political or a perception standpoint, that isn't always accepted as the best practice, but we're trying to run as efficiently as possible and not waste dollars. And in my mind, that takes a better precedence over making sure everybody gets exactly what they want. The largest complaint we get at Public Works when we're doing snow removal is, "You've blocked my driveway." So there's 2 parts to this. The first one is the city snow removal plan distinctly calls out that our operators will make an effort to make sure we don't block a driveway. And what I generally want people to think about is, if you were in that plow, not only are you watching to make sure you don't destroy the curb, you're trying to avoid people, pets, parked cars, moving cars, mailboxes. And on top of that, you need to be watching for every driveway so that you can take your wing, which is on the end of your plow, to carry the snow through and drop it. Now, if you're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning at dusk and new snowfall has just come down, the only way you're going to tell where a driveway is if you've either done this for 30 years and memorized everyone in town, or maybe they've been out to shovel, maybe you'll see a car. We will miss some. So the city has taken the extra effort that, if we do miss your driveway, feel free to call Public Works. We'll send a crew out as soon as we can to get that thing cleared for you, but it won't take a priority over our continuing to plow. If you have any input on snow removal or want to make any complaints, you can always call Public Works at 541-962-1325. If you're not able to get the answers you want to through that method, feel free to ask for me. Again, Kyle Carpenter, and I will be more than happy to meet with you and try and solve your problem.